If you want to customize your own computer without having to buy tools or spend a bunch of time in the workshop, you should check out v1tech.com. You can find professionally made mods like GPU backplates, sleeve cables, fan grills, and a bunch of other stuff, and you can use the discount code DIETECHMODS at checkout for 10% off any purchase. More info in the description. Hey, I'm DieTech, and this is a tutorial video on how to mod a Nintendo Switch. This was actually a collaboration between myself, my wife who sculpted and painted the entire Charizard, and V1Tech who helped us print a picture on the back of the Switch. And if you're planning on referencing this video to help you modify your own Switch, all of the tools and materials that we used in this video will be listed in the description. So the entire point of getting a Nintendo Switch instead of something like a computer for gaming is the fact that the Switch is portable, and so if you're thinking about modifying your Switch, that's probably something you want to keep in mind. You want to maintain that portability factor, and so changing the shape of the little handheld portion with the screen is not really an option because that would decrease the functionality of it. You can change the look of it, you can spray paint it a different color or draw a picture on it or something, which is really easy to do because the backplate is very simple to take off, but you don't want to do too much else besides that on the screen part. But the Nintendo Switch dock itself is just a stationary thing. It's meant to just sit on a shelf, and so there's a whole lot more we can do with it. And besides that, the Switch dock is a replaceable thing. If you mess it up, all you have to do is buy another dock instead of buying a whole nother Switch console. And the dock is cheaper, so that's good. I mean, obviously, you don't want to mess anything up if you can help it, but there's always a risk involved with modding anything, and minimizing the risk is always a good thing, and that directly translates to spending less money on things that could potentially go wrong. Now, I should mention that the Switch and the Switch dock have some weird proprietary, screws involved in holding them together, so you'll probably have to buy new screwdrivers in order to do this. But they're not very expensive, and they are linked in the description. Now, what I'm doing in this video is not meant to be something that you should copy exactly. It's just kind of meant to show you what is possible with a Nintendo Switch, and by all means you could copy this exactly if you wanted to. Me and my wife were asked to make a Charizard Nintendo Switch mod, and so that's what we did, but you could use these same methods that we use in the video to do really anything you want. What we did is take apart the Switch dock, make it a lot smaller, and incorporate it into a sculpture of Charizard. And that's what you're about to see us do, but if you wanted to sculpt like a goblin or a cat or something instead, then, follow your heart. What you would most likely be doing on the back of your Nintendo Switch backplate if you actually wanted to change it at all is using paint, spray paint or acrylic paint or whatever to make whatever kind of design you want. But what we did is send it over to our friend Hassan who owns V1 Tech. It's a computer modding company and he has a bunch of really cool tools like a super expensive printer that he used to print this picture onto the back of our backplate. I would not have been able to do something nearly this good by my own hand, which is why we sent it over to him, but if you happen to be a good traditional artist, you could paint whatever you wanted on the back of this thing instead, or you could use markers or anything. Really, the most important part would be to use a clear coat over anything you happen to modify on the backplate, because due to the fact that you're probably going to be taking this thing around with you, you want it to be durable. Whatever you put on there needs to be like shielded from whatever scrapes against it, like if it's in a backpack or something. And that's what a clear coat does. It protects your picture from getting scratched up. Clear coat just comes in a spray paint can and you just spray it over anything you want to protect and wait for it to dry, spray it over again, do multiple layers. Really, you can do as many layers as you want, but I do like 5 or 6 just to be completely safe. And by layers, I do mean you have to wait for like one layer to dry before you put on another layer, or else it's kind of more of a potential for it to not look as good in the end. For the actual sculpting itself, we use 2-part epoxy clay, which is this clay that hardens if you mix the 2 parts together. You have about a 3-hour working time or so before the clay is too hard to work with anymore. And for that reason, you kind of have to work in layers because there's no way you're going to finish a complicated sculpture in just 3 hours. What you do is you just kind of make the base layer and then build on top of it over the course of a few days. And then eventually you'll have it built up to the point where you can start doing the small details and the finish work and everything, but I guess basically the point is you have to do it in multiple sections, or else you're just making your life a lot more difficult than it has to be. And the reason we're using this kind of clay instead of something a little more traditional is because this clay you don't need to heat up or anything, and obviously heating up your Nintendo Switch dock with all of its electrical components and whatnot is not the best idea. So my beautiful, crazy talented wife used her super duper clay skills to sculpt this Charizard out of that clay. I used a scroll saw and my homemade acrylic bender and 1/8 inch thick acrylic to make the wings for the Charizard, which you'll see in a minute. I made them that way because it would have been almost impossible to just make them out of clay. And then when it was completely done being built, I just spray painted him completely gray, and then my wife used acrylic paint to make him look all pretty like he's supposed to, and then we just clear coated him and he was finished.
So I hope you found some value in that video. Again, check the description for all of the tools and materials that we use to do this mod, as well as V1Tech's website where you can get stuff for PC modding, and our social media accounts like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and Discord and Patreon, that kind of thing. And I will see you in the next one.